This episode on STS Garage, we're going to be fitting the Scout Carbon Pro 12,000 pound winch in behind the old plastic front bumper on new shape 79 series.
Oh my God.
Okay, I've got a spare.
What have you done?
Oh my God. It's awkward and it's painful. Wiring sucks. Sucks.
What?
Straight up, guys, I'm not taking credit for this one. Team Bullet Off-Road, I'm pretty sure that's his YouTube channel, which I did mention in the previous episode that we did on Lazarus. I'm stealing this idea for him, and I'm doing this because our bull bar we've selected for this is still a fair way away, and we're trying to get out and do some really good trips with this. Next episode, the canopy will be going on, so the build's nearly to the point where it is a fully functioning touring vehicle, and we'll be getting out and hitting the tracks with the Conqueror in tow. So I want that winch in the ute now. Not only that, all the suspension is set up for all these accessories, including the tray. So the thing is just about undrivable at the moment, with leaf pack in the rear that thick, heavier front springs, and bugger all weight on the ute. So it's going to help with that as well. But mainly, we really need the security of having a winch so we can push it a little bit further than what we would if we didn't have it. Anyway, let's go and get the winch out of the bar on Lazarus. All that bar work on Lazarus that we've been doing, the 60 series that is, that will be going to get sandblasted and powder coated, and that winch that I've fitted in there will go in the 79, and when the time comes and Lazarus hits the road, we'll get another winch to put into that bar. So anyway, that's enough from me. Let's get into it. Let's see what this little project's like. I think it won't be too bad, but time will tell. This is what we're going to be using to mount the winch to. So this is a piece of 8mm plate, exactly cut to length to the outsides of the chassis rails. Those two bolts, or this 16mm bolt and a 12mm nut we just took off, we'll drill a couple of holes each to each end. We are going to have to weld some plate on the front of it to take the fair lead. I'm hoping to get the fair lead up high enough that it'll be a nice neat hole on the bumper, and we can just cut a hole in the bumper, and that plastic bumper, put the chrome bit back over, and then bolt the fair lead over the top of the chrome. So all you'll see is the fair lead and the rope coming out. Should actually look really nice. So we've got that steel plate bolted temporarily into position. We're going to go ahead and mark the hole on the front bar where I want this fair lead to end up, and then we'll make the steel bracketry behind to suit where I want it to finish on that plastic bumper. Righto, so it looks pretty gnarly, but we've got a couple of pieces to go over this, don't forget. So the idea is we're going to have the number plate on like a bit of a quick release, a couple of wing nuts or something like that. Even if I've got to get a 10mm spanner out, it's not the end of the world. You reach in and put it into free spool, and then put that back over the top, and then the old fair lead will go underneath, obviously over the top of that chrome cover. We might even paint that black, but this will work pretty well, I think. So we've marked the front of the plate facing towards the front of the car, and we're going to have the fair lead sitting around here. So we're going to come up 40mm to the bottom of where the rope comes out, and forward 60. We're going to have to do that on an angle as well. So look, a welder is just like glue for steel. It's really, none of this is really hard. Welder and angle grinder, you can pretty much do anything like this. I know I harp on about that, but it all seems too hard sometimes, but it really is quite simple. If I can do it, most people can. So we'll weld a bit of steel on there, mount that, and then we'll go ahead and brace it. Don't forget, this is a winch. It's gonna have to be reasonably strong, so get going. So we've got the base plate here. We've got, that is the face of the back of the front plastic bar, which is then shaped like so. So we've drawn it up, so we'll come down 5 to 10 mil below where the actual rope comes out of the fair lead here. And then the bolt holes will be here somewhere. So we'll measure what this plate needs to be now. 63. I've just marked where the winch actually sits because the plate is only just wide enough, so we don't want to weld and foul on the winch. So we'll start welding this all together. So before we fully weld this out, we need to make sure it's in the right spot. So we're 54 mil out, 43. That'll do donkey. Righto, so that's perfect. So we'll weld the back side, because if you keep welding the one side, it'll just keep pulling up. So we'll put a few tacks on the back side. Then we might put the tabs in it for the fair lead and chuck it in the car and make sure it's going to work. So the angle looks good, but I'm just going to have to pull it forward and fill it with weld, I think. So I've cut some braces to go from where the fair lead bolts on down to the base plate here. We've checked to make sure that the winch won't foul on them. So we'll weld those in as well and really stiffen this up. Don't want it twisting and carrying on. I don't think this will go anywhere. I'm pretty confident there's plenty of steel here. So get those welded in, start cleaning it up, give it a bit of paint. Sweet, that is fully welded out. So we added a couple of pieces underneath. Basically it continues this piece up the top all the way down on that angle as such, and it doesn't foul where the winch is going to sit. I think that'll be more than stiff enough. So we'll clean it up with the wire wheel now and get some paint on it. While the winch cradle is drying, we're going to get in and paint this chrome fascia piece in a bit of plastic dip I had laying around. So why plastic dip, you may ask? This stuff was in fashion like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. I've had a can on that shelf since then and it had been used, so it is good shit. It is about $30 a can, it's quite expensive, but it dries like a real matte finish. It looks like a matte plastic finish that you see on so many surfaces on cars. I really do like the finish, so for this it would be perfect. People used to do their wheels in it. They probably still do, you just don't hear a lot about it anymore. The idea is you put it on pretty thick and put on lots of coats, and you can actually peel the shit off and it doesn't damage the surface underneath. So little things like that, awesome. People were doing the whole cars. I don't think I'd do that, but that'll do for now. Where in God's green earth am I going to put that? We are going to surface mount the winch solenoid here on the front bar. I don't think it'll look too bad. That's how it would be on a bull bar anyway, and the cables will reach the motor. I'm not going to overcomplicate this because this is not permanent. Well, I say that now anyway, but I think it'll look good either way, and it's just an easy way to access the solenoid, easy way to hook up the wires. So before we bolt the winch to the winch plate, we're going to connect the earth because it's underneath here. We've also got a little earth cable that comes from the control box. So I'm actually going to cut this and put a joining terminal in it. It's going to be way too hard to try and bolt that on, and whilst I'm lifting the plate up, I need to be able to bolt that terminal onto the winch before we put it in the car. So we'll just have a little joining connector. All it is to power the solenoid. It's actually not powering the winch as such. It's a nice thin little cable, so a little spade terminal will be fine. Okay, next job, we'll run the positive cable from the solenoid across underneath the bar and up into the engine bay, ready for the isolator switch. We'll put some conduit around it first. This one is the dangerous one, so we want to protect this. Obviously there's an isolation switch right beside the battery, which you always should have off unless you're using the winch. So we've got the cable run into the engine bay here. Now before we go and mount that winch, I've got to get a bracket made up for the isolator. I'm going to get some thin sheet steel, and we're going to use these two existing radiator cross member bolts here, and we'll come across the top, drop down, and then across the top of the radiator bracket. And if it ever needs to come out, it's quite an easy thing to do. You just lift the whole thing out. So we'll let that dry. By the time we get the winch in, it'll be dry enough. I'm a, leave fingerprints and things kind of guy because I'm very impatient. So let's get this finished. Love it when a plan comes together. Right, I've got 2 more nuts to put on that, and then I'll show you how it looks from underneath. It is really, really nice and neat. I'm really happy with this little install. Be ashamed to ever rip it out one day, but anyway. So we shorten up the cable that goes from the isolator to the battery. They do come with pre-cut lengths, but this is where this will permanently stay once the bull bar's on even, so we'll make it nice and neat. So obviously when you're doing anything like this, electrical, you want to hook up the positive the very last thing you do, because you don't want any positive wires floating around while you're doing things up. So we'll leave that right to the end. We'll get this all mounted and then hook it up and give it a test. Go and get our bracket that I haven't actually test fitted this to, so hopefully all the holes in the right spot. Nothing wrong with that. The old export $2 can matte black. The shit sticks like the proverbial. So this is ready to go. We'll see if we can get these bolt holes to line up. Doing little things like this make all the difference to an install. It's nice and neat. It's easy to service if something goes wrong. If you've got to get the battery out or the radiator out for some reason, it's achievable. It's very time consuming though. Okay, so I haven't used the factory bolts back in there. I've used mushroom head Allen key bolts because we've actually added about 1.5 to 2 mil to the head of those bolts. By the time you put those mushrooms in, they're probably actually lower than the factory bolts. Now this plastic shroud does have to go back over the top of that whole lot. And I think this little one here will go in. If not, we'll just slot it ever so slightly to let that tab bend down. The rest of the clips will go in, no worries, and that is solid, easy to get at, and easy to service. Okay, at this point we're going to do a little test. That's winch isolator on. Now I do have the winch in free spool, so I'm really over cautious here. If anything were to go wrong, it'd just free spool, nothing would happen. So we'll give it a go. Hold the 2 buttons together. That's a good sign. Awesome. Put the front end of the car back together and we'll have a look at what the finished product looks like. Okay, so we've used the clip-on captured nuts off this fascia piece that went on before, because it actually just dropped the number plate down out of that. I don't know why. To attach a little bit of plate to it that we can then offset the bolts for the number plate. So the piece of steel will bolt to the plastic and stay on, and then we'll go beside those bolts with some extra holes and weld a captured nut to the back of that plate for the number plate. There we have it. That was a good little DIY job. An angle grinder and a welder, you can just about achieve anything, and it looks freaking awesome. I really don't want to put a bull bar on this car, but I know if I don't, I'll definitely have an animal strike. That's just my luck, and we do plan to do some big trips. Hence the reason we put the winch in now, because we are waiting on that bull bar. But it looks freaking awesome. I love this car without a bull bar, and now we've blacked out that front grille and the winch and the control box. bloody beauty. I'm pumped with that. Don't forget, head over to smarttouringsystems.com.au. We've had a website for about 7 years now, selling our own products that we designed, we test, and with the help from local companies we manufacture as well. Very proud of those. The solar clip and the quick fit brackets. Also, there's some kick-ass shirts there. James usually is very good at coming out with all these sayings, and we put them on the back of shirts, and they are selling like hotcakes. Grab yourself one. Don't forget, guys, you do only live once. Get out there and do that project you've been putting off, and have a ball doing it. See you next time.